Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to History Recolored. Today I'd like to read a couple of excerpts and provide a little history on the story behind what is known as the Trail of Tears. Now, in a nutshell, this excerpt, in full disclosure, comes from pieces of articles that are on the National Park Service website. But I'm going to bring these to life with some pictures and some narration, and hopefully we can learn something about the Trail of Tears that we didn't know. And if you're new here, if you could like and subscribe, that'd be great. If I can earn that from you, that'd be fine. But really, let's get into what the Trail of Tears is all about. And it comes back to setting the stage now to 1830. In that decade, all right, Congress passed what they called the Indian Removal Act. And what that did, and think about it, and the Indians are always here first. I think they are the true Americans and not us. The Indian Removal Act forcibly removed thousands of American Indians from their homelands in the Southeastern United States, all right? Forcibly removed. That means that the government is going in there, they're dragging them out, and they're making them go someplace they don't want to be. And this place that they don't want to be, they were relocated to an area of land known as the Indian Territory, which is now the state of Oklahoma. This tragic event, as it happened, is referred to the Trail of Tears. Now, think about this for a minute. Over 10,000 Native Americans died during the removal or soon upon their arrival in the new Indian Territory. Now, since its inception, and that is the United States government, struggled with a problem, and that had to do with greedy citizens and politicians in the Southeast. They wanted the valuable lands that were occupied by the following Indian tribes, and I'm going to read these. The Cherokee, the Chickasaw, the Choctaw, the Muscogee, the Creek, the Seminole, and some other tribal nations. And this all came after the Louisiana Purchase. And that, as we know, was an enormous acquisition of territory west of the Mississippi in 1803. And that was by President Thomas Jefferson. And President Jefferson presumed that the tribes could be persuaded to give up their homes in exchange for land further west. So what do? The white man, as they say, right? We said, oh, we don't want you here anymore. You're in our way. You're no good for us. So what we want to do is we want to take you and shove you someplace that's way out of our face that we don't have to deal with. And, we're going to give you free land. Well, whoop-de-doo. I don't think the Indians really wanted any free land because when you think about it, for their entire life or their existence in this country, the land was always free no matter where they went, all right? That's kind of sad when you really dive into it and think about it. So following Thomas Jefferson lead, the next president, which was Andrew Jackson, pushed for the passage of the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Now, this act provided funds for the United States government to negotiate removal treaties with the tribes. In other words, what we're going to do, pay them off. That's what the country does when they don't like something, they just pay them off. Or they just take it, and that's life, right? The federal government coerced tribal leaders to sign these treaties. Now, coerced, that's a fine line between making them and having them do it under their own free will. How they did that, I don't know. Factions formed within the tribes because many of them were opposed to giving up their homeland. And you really can't blame them. It's all they've ever known. The Cherokee principal chief, John Ross, he even traveled to Washington to negotiate the alternatives to removal and actually pleaded with the government to reconsider the injustices of these treaties. However, the United States government did not deviate from their policy. They had made their mind up, and that's the way it was going to be. All right. Now, although President Jackson negotiated the removal treaties, the next president, Martin Van Buren, was left to enforce them. Now, the impact of the removal was felt by the Choctaw starting in 1831, and they were forced off their lands in Mississippi. And in the years 1836 to 1838, the Creeks, the Chickasaws, the Cherokees, and the Seminoles were forced from their homes and removed to Indian territory as well. Again, all the way across country to a place they've never seen or never been. Now, some of the United States citizens disagreed with the actions of the government, and this included Congressman David Crockett of Tennessee. Now, I question that. Could that be V. Davy Crockett? The time seems right. Christian missionaries also denounced the injustice, and they were probably all up in arms about it, okay? Particularly with that policy of removing the Indians from their land. Now, there was a missionary of the time named Elijah Butler who rode with the Cherokee and served as their doctor. And he estimated, right, alone, that over 4,000 people, which was a fifth of the Cherokee population. So we had a Cherokee population of 20,000 people, 4,000 of them died along the trail. And that's partially why it's called the Trail of Tears, because of all the death that happened. Now, he's quoted as saying, "Will not the people in whose power it is to redress Indian wrongs awake to their duty? Will they not think of the multitude swept into eternity by the cupidity of the white man, who is the enjoyment of wealth and freedom on the original soil of these oppressed Indians?" And that was actually stated very eloquently by his wife, Lucy Ames Butler. And she stated that to her friend, Drusilla Burnap, in 1839. So the tribes that are all connected with these, and I'm going to read a brief list of them, is the Caddo Nation, the Cherokee Nation, the Chickasaw Nation, the Choctaw Nation, the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, the Jenna Band of Choctaw Indians, the Muscogee Creek Nation, the Seminole Nation, the United Kiowa Band of Cherokee Indians, and the Quapaw Nation. That is about the gist of the overview of the Trail of Tears in a nutshell. I want to thank the National Park Service for providing that excerpt that I could actually pick some information from and share with you. And I do want to mention that there are records, actual records, that show that 10,300 Cherokee Indians traveled on the Trail of Tears through what became known as the Pea Ridge National Military Park. And that's out there somewhere. Now, I can provide you more information on this. There's so many stories about the route that they took and the problems that they had. But for now, that's just kind of to whet your appetite. I do want to thank you for taking a look at this video on History Recolored. I try to bring meaningful content to the subscribers on a regular basis. This is just one more thing. So I want to thank you for listening and maybe learning a little bit more about the Trail of Tears. Thanks, and God bless.